Hey everybody, this is Mrs. Kennedy and I'm here in front of Will's bookshelf ready to read you another story. Today's story is called The Library Dragon and it's by Carmen Agrediti and illustrated by Michael P. White. And it is a funny story about a librarian who is not very much like your library lady. Thank goodness. I think you'll see why I say that here. Sunrise Elementary School had a big problem. The new librarian, Miss Lotta Scales, was a real dragon. Miss Lotta Scales was hired to guard the library, and she took her job seriously. Hundreds of new, clean books replaced the old, smudged ones. These shining gems neatly lined the shelves of her library layer in perfect order. No 398.2s in the 500s, and absolutely no fiction in the biographies. Says pencil and claw sharpener here, and here it says do not touch the books, for display only. Can you imagine not getting to touch all the books in the library? She kept a fiery eye out to make sure no one removed any books from the shelves. Her motto was a place for everything, and that's where it stays. The very thought of sticky little fingers touching and clutching and pawing and clawing and smearing and tearing her precious books just made her hot under the collar. Miss Scales thought the way some books spread an unfounded fear of dragons was positively inflammatory. Books that depict the cruelty to dragons should never have been published in the first place. She got so fired up about this, she didn't just discard the books she didn't like, she incinerated them. Incinerated. Wow, that is a big word. Let me see if I can read and see my context clues will help me. The kids watched in awe. Well, that settles it, whispered Albert Hoops. Where there's smoke, there's fire, and that Miss Scales is a real dragon, all right. Well, I look at the pictures here, and I see smoke, and they talked about fire and her being a dragon. I bet incinerated means she set them on fire. Incinerated. That's a good word. Not surprisingly, the kids at Sunrise Elementary began to dread library day. It wasn't long before teachers stopped sending their children to the library because they kept coming back singed. Oh dear. First, the principal tried to reason with Miss Scales, but his plan backfired. Instead of cooling her down, he just fanned the flames. And finally, don't forget who does the hiring, Miss Scales, sputtered the principal. Oh, really? And who does the firing? Asked Miss Scales with a glare and a flare that caught his tie on fire. No. Now cut that out, said the principal as he waved the smoke out of his face. No smoking in the library, Miss Lotta Scales said dryly. The principal fumed. The teachers were incensed, and worst of all, the children had missed reading and story time for weeks, and their grades were going up in smoke. So the teachers formed a delegation, and after a trip to the cafeteria kitchen to fortify themselves, they paid a visit to Miss Scales. Look at his tie on fire. Oh no. Miss Lotta Scales smoldered as she listened to sweet Miss Lemon, the kindergarten teacher. And most importantly, Miss Scales, dear, the children miss story time. Story time, schmory time, blew Miss Lotta Scales. Why, if I let children touch these books with their gooey and snotty fingers, and this library wouldn't last a week. And she stared so furiously at the teachers that they all threw down their weapons and clanged about. Except Miss Lemon. You know, Miss Scales, we all love the books as much as you do, but the library belongs to the children. Good night, Miss Lemon, you slay me, cracked Miss Scales. Why, the idea of story time is simply medieval. Well, we love our story time, don't we, guys? As usual, the dragon had the last word. That Miss Lemon is a real spitfire. chuckled Miss Scales, but she had spewed so much smoke and fire at sweet Miss Lemon that she had to lie down for a nap. She was really dragging. In fact, she was burned out. Being a library dragon can be such a lonely job, she mumbled sadly to herself as she heaved a mighty sigh and closed her scaly lids. It was at that very moment that Molly Brickmeyer accidentally wandered into the library. Molly was on a quest. She had lost her glasses and couldn't see anything without them unless it was right under her nose. She stumbled into a bookshelf and a book fell into her lap. She never saw the sign that read, "Do not touch the books, for display only." It was over her head, so she held this one right under her nose and began to read out loud. First, a class of second graders in line for the water fountain heard her and tiptoed in to listen. Then the fourth graders outside playing kickball heard the story being read and crowded around the windows. "Speak up," someone said. Molly Brickmeyer spoke up. Word of story time in the library spread like wildfire at Sunrise Elementary. Everyone was listening, even the library dragon, and her ears were burning. Uh-oh. Slowly, Miss Lotta Scales rose from behind a bookshelf and looked at the boys and girls huddled around Molly. She'd never quite seen anything like it. The children looked like they belonged there. "I love you, Snuff," Molly read as all the children listened. "Give me that book, Molly Brickmeyer," roared Miss Scales. Molly held the book cheerfully towards the scaly blur. Miss Lotta Scales took the book and eyed it suspiciously as it hung from her claws. First she sniffed, then she checked the spine for cracks, and then she checked each page for stains and smudges. Finally, Miss Scales looked around at the children and cleared smoke from her throat. "Now, where were we? Why, yes, I love you, Snuff." At first, the children were too nervous to listen, but when Molly Brickmeyer climbed up onto Miss Lotta Scales' lap and didn't get scorched, they relaxed. "You're very warm," whispered Molly. "Don't interrupt," Miss Scales crackled. Everyone was listening so intently that they almost missed it as she read. Miss Lotta's scales began to fall on the linoleum floor with a clickety-clack, clickety-clack. Clickety-clack until all that was left was Miss Lottie, librarian and storyteller, sitting in a mountain of yellow, green, and purple scales with Molly Brickmeyer, dragon slayer extraordinaire, on her lap. The rest of the children warmed up to Miss Lottie right away. Look, she turned into a nice librarian. The changes in Miss Lottie's new kid-friendly library were hard to miss. Not surprisingly, the kids at Sunrise Elementary School began to love Library Day. Miss Lottie's transformation, however, was not complete. She still has her rules. But then every librarian needs to be a little bit dragon, or else who would guard the books? The end of our tale. Well, that was Library Dragon by Karma Agradidi, illustrated by Michael P. White. And I like this book because it's silly. And it also, I love it because it says what I think. The library belongs to the children. And I will be so happy to see everybody back in our library together soon. I'm thinking about you and I'm praying for everybody. And I just really hope everybody is safe and dry and able to listen to a story, and we'll be ready to come back when we're able. Have a wonderful night, and always, always keep reading.